Okay.
Welcome to Just Minding My Business Media, LLC. Broaden the scope of exposure for your business by going beyond the interview. Learn more at www.jmmbmediallc.com or email us at jmmbradio@gmail.com. Richard Flen-gee is the former co-host of EVTV, a worldwide webcast and private renewable energy research facility. As a journalist reporting the rise of the electric vehicle, Tesla, and solar technology, he has covered the introduction of new vehicles, Tesla battery technology, and solar innovations. On the research side, Richard managed an off-grid solar array and battery research focused on the innovation of devices and repurposing of used electric vehicle batteries. Richard has experience in solar battery banks for off-grid, computer power backups, solar homes, and custom electric vehicles. He is here to tell us more about the step forward in technology that will power our future lives. Welcome, Richard.
Yes, good to be here.
Yes, welcome. And what an interesting topic, an on-time topic.
It is an on-time topic. It is a growing subject, and there is a lot that people need to understand about the scope of the technology and getting, there's some cultural barrier, just people are very comfortable with the way energy is today. And there is a learning curve and an adoption that people are going to have to transition through. And part of the reasons I write and communicate is somewhat to help them feel more comfortable with what is ahead in renewable energy.
Wow.
So, first question, how soon will we be impacted by these changes?
We are partially impacted now. I would say the electric vehicle is going to be the first major impact, and it is still in a very early adoption stage. In time frame, I would say probably mainstream, pragmatic, everybody is using it, 25 years. I would say you have a substantial amount of the technology has to be a little bit more friendly. Right now, in renewables, it does require a substantial amount of expertise. You are dealing with basically a micro power plant. So you have to have fairly good knowledge with equipment and working around high voltage and power, versus as we move forward, they will get it more and more like appliance-like. So like you would really be able to buy stuff off the shelf and take it home and use it. Right now, it is not that easy, and it is not trivial stuff. It's high power, and it is it has, it has risk, and it has danger, and it has cost. And if you make mistakes with electrical devices, they blow up, and you have to buy new ones. So there's a lot going on. But I would say, realistically, very, very comfortable, ease of use. You're probably, and mainstream, I would say probably at least 15 to 20 years at this point.
Okay, so this sounds like something that we've never seen before. Can you paint a picture for us of what, let's say, inside the house? Let's go into the kitchen.
Okay, that is actually the very first place you start. And we innovated a solar array, and we began to research this, and we had a battery. So we would use our solar, and then the battery we would fill up with electricity. Well, come to find out, if you were not monitoring your system, if you didn't have feedback, your battery would go dead. You would have dead spots in your electrical use. So the very first device that will be in a solar home will be a microprocessor and a display. So in your microprocessor and your display, you're going to know how and when you use electricity, what device consumes the most electricity. You're also going to know when your best solar is, okay? And then you will have how full your battery is. So you will have a smart home. So the second part of the smart home was that we very rapidly learned that you had to connect to other devices. And we called them a diversion load or a switching, which what that meant was when the sun was out and we had a lot of solar, we had an auto switch that turned on the air conditioning. So the system made a decision and switched on devices that when peak solar was available and there was a lot of energy available, we matched the solar output to the device that needed energy. And when you go through that whole scope, in the future, you were going to have a microprocessor, and you're going to relate to when you use certain devices. So you could set your laundry up, and you could literally even control your hot water heater and say, don't turn on the hot water heater till 10 o'clock, then start the laundry, or don't start the dryer until 4 o'clock when we have the most electricity. And that would be sort of the first scope, is that you would have a computer that feeds back all the information you need to control your energy. And
sounds a little sci-fi.
It is ahead of time. Now, this technology is available, and it is in really with what you call the tinkerers and the innovators and all those guys that are out there. The off-gridders do some of this stuff,
Okay.
and they do it. They may not do it with a microprocessor. They do it by rule of thumb. They know when to take hot water, when to watch TV, or when to run heat. But it is that component of it, I would say, is in the future of all people on Earth using electricity. You're going to have a system to understand how to manage your energy.
So it's going to be, basically, we can say it's going to be solar energy, and we have to learn how to manage it.
Solar will be one component. Solar is very strong in certain latitudes. The closer you get to the equator, the better solar works. Now, in northern latitudes, they may not have as good a solar. So what you would end up with is you would probably transport by train batteries full of energy to the northern hemispheres. They would still utilize solar, but the solar array would not necessarily be right next to them. And that is one thing people need to understand. That's basically what we're doing today. And a lot of people don't realize how much we transport energy. 40% of our coal comes from Wyoming. So you guys are in Pennsylvania or Tennessee or Maryland or wherever. They ship long trains full of energy coal a couple thousand miles every day, every week. It moves across our country. We can do the same thing with solar, basically.
Wow.
That's fascinating.
It is. And, I come to this, people don't articulate. The message is fairly new. It is. Most of the guys that are into this don't. They still are in the technology field, engineering. And I'm sort of an everyday person. And I'm really moving to try to at least start the conversation so people get prepared.
Yes, and I think that's very important because I'm a computer person and I understand there are people that work on the computer that don't have a clue
Yeah.
about what's going on. And as soon as something doesn't perform, then they are in a panic mode and the whole 9 yards. So with that said, is this technology going to be, like you said, friendly? Because there's going to be people that's just not ever going to get it.
Well, yeah, I would say the second part of the scenario that probably would make it very friendly is if you had a car that's electric car, it's a large battery. And sort of the next phase is what is called bidirectional, where you could store the energy in your car and you can simply plug it into your home and power your home.
Wow.
So people that are not really that technologically adept and really do not want to fiddle with this, yes, there are alternatives that are going to be very simple. And those are good questions. And that's really what the discussion needs to be about. And, I would say if I gather up myself, I want to focus towards people's utilizing this technology. But it's coming and they know it. I would say from being inside, they're aware of it. How fast the establishment and the whole industry wants to move, maybe another question.
Wow.
So is that part of the reason why I know we have electric cars, and yet I'm seeing more and more real estate being devoted to refueling stations for electric cars, because the industry is moving that fast. I know we had one here in Columbia that was not used for almost a year. They were busy building it. It just got bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And it's still not that well used, but there are cars now using it. So are we going to see more of that type of thing? What is our world going to look like? That change.
Yeah, that is, they are in comparative numbers, there are a small number of electric vehicles. There are 300 million gas powered vehicles in the United States, maybe 1 million electric vehicles. So you are seeing sort of the cart before the horse in that respect. But yes, you will see more charging stations. But now another advantage of the electric vehicle is that you don't go to the refueling station, you charge at home. And me as a journalist, and as I always spoke and interviewed with people who dealt with electric vehicles, that was actually their number one positive thing that they said. They charge at home and they don't have to stop and get fuel. But the concept, one thing that I talk about as a future concept, you could have a solar station, a hub that was dedicated just to charging vehicles. So you would have solar, you would store the energy in the battery, and then the vehicle could come there and charge up. And we call that in the industry driving on sunshine. And, you could have so that future is coming. The numbers are not there in the electric vehicle business right now, though. It is still it's 1 out of every 300 cars. So
wow. Now my concern is safety, because I can tell, like, if I'm use my cell phone for a long period of time, it's really hot. So my thing with especially the electric cars,
they have
they, what's the safety measures put into this?
In the large cars, they have a very robust fusing system. So they have a pyro fuse, or a fuse that if there's any shock to the car or anything goes on, it normally blows fuses. The incident of fires versus gasoline cars is still, it's a much smaller percentage. But the energy moving does produce heat. There is no doubt about it. So you have cooling systems that are involved still, motor cooling systems, and you have a fair amount of energy to move several thousand pounds down the road. So yes, you understand that. I mean, that's, but you're moving a tank full of explosive gasoline down the road now as well. And your car is heating up to several hundred degrees. So that's kind of what it takes to move us around.
Yeah, I see. So if people want to learn more about this technology, how do they get in touch with you?
I have a website. It's same as my last name, Richard Flen-gee, RICHARDFLENTGE.com. I do blogs. I do small, like little mini documentaries, and then I have a book. And I wrote the book with the attitude of it's not all technical. It shows a little history of how we use the steam engine, what went on with some of our, all the way through the 70s oil crisis. And then I bring in my own personal stories, and then some of these future concepts. And I do have some very accurate writing to this niche of information.
Okay. And what's the name of your book?
It is called Verities of an Electric Mule.
Verities.
VERITIES of an electric mule.
Okay.
And right now it's self-published, and it's only on my author site. I've published several other books, but this one I just self-published.
Oh, okay.
I do have a question. We've started with the electric car. We have smart homes. We have electric vehicles that are on the rise. And Ida asked a question that made me think about the fact that one of the big things that are coming up are electric bicycles.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the problems that they have with that are that some of the batteries that they explode. So where will they fit into all of this? I mean, it's like we're going to this whole new paradigm of what we call electric energy.
You're right. It's correct. With the case of the electric bikes, the reason that they catch fire, or most often anyhow, is actually overcharging. Most of the time, the device is hooked up on a battery charger, and there is some sort of a fault inside the battery, and they keep pouring energy into it. And that almost all of the fires happen with unmonitored devices that are charged overnight. Now, we had a rule in the shop that we didn't allow anything to be on a charger overnight. So there are safety protocols, and people, if they're careless, you are dealing with a lot of energy. So they can improve that, I believe. I mean, they could fuse it, and they can place timers on it, but plugging in devices that are sitting there running and not responsibly monitoring them, I mean, it can lead to some problems. So
Okay, another question. when we talk about this, I don't know, maybe we won't have malls in the future, 25 years from now. How is that going to be powered by this new type of technology? I mean, large events, auditoriums, arenas, those kind of things. How are those things going to be powered?
They have very, very large, what are called megapacks. So they do have batteries on a scale that you really, it's hard to imagine. So you would stage that. Now, in bringing up malls, which is another sort of interesting subject, in that in urban environments, especially when they have abated buildings or spare buildings in a lot of those areas, those structures actually would lend themselves very well to be converted to solar facilities. There is actually a lot of rooftops. There are a lot of parking lots. There is a lot of space right now where you could begin to put renewable energy and free energy, especially in an urban environment. It all would be consumed. There's a dense amount of population there. It would sort of revitalize the area, and it would give people in that area an industrious activity, being involved in the energy business. So,
okay, so if I heard you correctly, you're talking about, let's say, Baltimore, lots of vacant houses,
exactly.
buildings. Those would be turned into like energy centers. Did I hear you correctly?
Exactly. A solar hub. Yes, absolutely. Yes.
That's awesome. Now, I'm sorry, Ida, did you?
Go ahead. This is interesting. Thank you, Richard, for coming.
Yes, indeed. They say now that when they look at the pyramids of Egypt, that they believe that they were energy sources in some ways. They don't know how. Is this kind of like the same thinking?
It would be, yeah. You have the angle of the sun, and as things go up into the sky, just like a tree grows, yes, you capture energy that way. And that would be, if you wanted to relate to a future concept, the pyramid is a very sound structure. It's not very easy to blow over, and it extends up into the sky. So you would have a very secure, stable structure to put solar panels on and to have energy. Now they also already have quite a few towers and things in place, and solar towers are actually sort of an advanced energy concept. But putting stuff up into the sky, into the sun, would capture more energy. That is a correct observation. Yes.
Yeah, because I see in my area, they have fields where they have like these windmills, or they have all of these panels, solar panels, like lined up, rows and rows and rows of them. So is that for providing energy to like that particular community?
Usually, yes. Yeah, it does not usually travel very far. One of the issues with electricity in the grid is the transportation. Wires have resistance, they travel over distance, it has losses. When you go to solar and things like you described, the energy does not have to transport as far. It goes directly, usually, into the grid. Now, an interesting side note, which is like if you live in a neighborhood and your neighbor has a bunch of solar panels, well, what happens is during the peak sunshine days, their solar panels put out more output than the house is going to take in. So it transfers out into the grid, and the other homes in that neighborhood are actually using the neighbor's solar panel.
Wow. Do they know that?
No, they do. And the utility company knows, and they bill you for it anyway. That is they give you a couple cents going out your meter, and then they go down the street and charge the guy 25 cents.
Oh,
for
wow.
everyone. So that is kind of an inside story for
I
people.
tell you, what we don't know is amazing. Mm,
Yeah, it is.
okay.
It's very vital, you know, and something to the general economy of just people. Self-controlling our own energy sources is a tremendous wealth for the future. It will stabilize a tremendous amount of society. You have everybody has to pay a substantial amount of their income and make a lot of efforts for energy right now. When it becomes internal, it's going to change the dynamic of human living. So
Now, my question to you, okay, if I get solar panels on my house, how is the electric company involved with that?
very much, and that is a very, very big question. Okay. They're not just happy go lucky that there's solar panels in their system. They have very serious concerns. One is, besides it being a competitor, is that if they go into a region and they have to work on lines and they shut off that region, there's a possibility that solar panels could backfeed and then their workers could be exposed to live wires when they think the wires are shut off. So utility companies regulate very heavily, and they are very protective of their turf. So you have a lot. If you get solar panels, you will have some paperwork, and then you will have an inspection. And they have people that go out and they figure out if you're going to make it or not, and they check everything. But that is actually a bit of an obstacle and a barrier that we all have to work towards. We have to work with utility companies, but at the same time, we're going to have renewable energy. So
there's going to be a little turf war going on here for
exactly.
a while. Okay.
Yeah, because I'm starting to get mailings about solar panels.
Mm-hmm.
So when you and then I know it was an incident here that a company wasn't doing the right thing with installing the solar panels. It was just a nightmare. And the company went out of business.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and left all the customers hanging pretty much.
Yeah, that is part of the disruption. And you're going to kind of churn these people as we move forward. And that's why, when we started the conversation, I would say, before all this stuff is, you're driving up to Home Depot and going in with a credit card and coming out with a solar system that you snap together, it's a few years away. It's probably a decade away. Now, there are two mindsets, which is the bigger solar companies have really figured it out and dealt with a lot of regulations. There are very reputable. The flip side of that is it's anywhere from $30,000 to $50,000 or $60,000. So if you have the money, they'll solve your problem. I'm on the other side of that, so I need.
Well, most of us are on the other side.
Most of us are. Yeah, that's right. So we have a ways to go with that. But
so they talk about the energy credits, the government. I see that advertisement when I get the mailing. Just like you can get this big credit from the government to put solar panels on your house. So is that myth or is that?
No, they do provide the tax credits do come through, and energy credits. They are incentivizing people to go solar. The big concern or the push is they understand a very long-term trajectory of fossil fuels and what it's going to mean. And the government, which is doing this right, is trying to incentivize people to transfer as much of the energy use as they can to renewables. So that does work, and it should keep going. But we did apply for a pretty large tax credit when we built our system here. So, and we got it. So
Oh,
it does
okay.
help.
Wow. And let's say
Wow.
in 30 years, our world is going to look very, very, very different.
It'll be a little quieter.
There'll be no more gas stations,
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah.
no more gas stations. It's going to be different. I imagine even the infrastructure will change because of the electric cars.
Mhm.
That's going to change as well. There's going to be a lot of changes in the future.
Mhm.
And the picture in the back of my mind is many, many years ago at the New York State World's Fair. I remember seeing cars. They had a display on cars and the infrastructure. I didn't know that's what it was called at the time. I was like 10 or 11. But they showed cars that were moving on their own accord. They did not need drivers to drive them. They
Mhm.
were doing all this. This was, I don't want to date myself, but this was a long time ago. And I am alive to see it actually coming to
Yeah.
pass.
Yeah.
That's what fascinates me. It's like
Yeah.
people used to laugh at Star Trek and those big things that they used to have, to talk to each other.
Yeah.
Today we have a cell phone.
I know. You're exactly right.
It's
And then the Jetsons, with
Yeah,
the,
you're
you
right.
can see the people on the screen.
I am in that exact same generation. And I do make that comment every once in a while. And,
it's amazing. We're alive to see it actually come into existence. And
it is.
it's fascinating. I'm fascinated by this idea of a world that maybe I would not even recognize in 25 to 30 years.
Yes.
If I was on a deserted island and came back, I'd be like, ooh, what is this?
Yeah, you're exactly right. And one of my I'll tell you, one of my interesting sales that I was involved in was these kids take solar panels and they put them over the top of bicycles, like tricycles and stuff. So they go out on these trips and they have a solar panel that then helps fuel their vehicle as they're biking along. And if they get tired, they stop and sit in the sun and let their solar charge up their battery, and they take trips around the US. My vision of the future would be happy children, safe, being able to get on a bike, and if they wanted to go 80 miles away and go camping, they could do it safely and do it for basically for free. So we hope that future comes too. So
Yes.
Wonderful, wonderful vision.
That's so wow, Richard. This is definitely over the top, a very, very
Mhm.
interesting conversation. And you already know we must have you back to
I'll
be
come
able to
back.
keep talking about this.
Listen, I talk and I am very passionate about the subject, and I put a lot of my life into it. And I think in the long run, it's going to be a much better future for the people who come after us. And
Yes.
we don't need this. What is going on right now is certainly very disruptive. So
Yes, you
Oh,
know,
my
dependency on the oil,
And
you know, we get,
coal.
yeah,
all of that.
yeah. But then, the thing of it is it going to be cost effective for everybody, or are the utility companies going to milk people to death?
That's why it's called disruptive technology. So there's going to be a disruption,
Okay.
and there will be plenty of discussions as this moves forward. And you somewhat hear it and feel it. And even though it hasn't really happened, you can hear all this pressure going on, and that's because it'll change. Now, the other thing about electric vehicles, they last a very long time. So the things you're buying now, even if you said 10, 20, 30-year cars, I mean, these things are going to go 50, 60, 75 years.
Mm.
They are going to be that replenishment of the auto industry is going to change a little bit. So I would always, they better, but the same thing
better.
happened. Yeah.
So we better buckle up and get ready for the ride, huh?
You know, I hope we keep the conversation going.
Yes.
That would
Absolutely.
be the main
This
thing.
is a great conversation.
Don't the naysayers, you know, they have a gruff voice, and they have you know, some valid points that they don't want to be moved out of their comfort zone, and they really want to find whatever they can to tell people not to move into renewable energy and electric vehicles, and that is just part of what you face. There's
Yeah.
knuckleheads
There's
everywhere.
always changes. Like I said, we've gone from those mega machines that they were using on Star Trek to a cell phone. Anything's
exactly right.
possible, so get ready.
Yes,
exactly right.
indeed.
You're exactly right, and that's
Oh,
it can be done. And I'm here to tell you that I wrote a book about it. I've been doing it for 10, 12 years, and I am thoroughly convinced that it's going to happen. But I also want to make sure I very clearly tell people this is not plugging in a toaster over here. I mean, it has some very serious energy concerns and safety concerns and risk. And so people need to prepare in that general area.
Yes. And our next collaboration is going to be the bewares that we're going to have with you. So you
yes.
definitely have to come back and talk about the stuff that we need to know to be safe with the new world
Absolutely.
that we're about to move into.
That's
For sure.
Mhm.
Again, how can people reach out to you?
They normally
We lost you.
Oh.
There you go. We got you.
Got me?
Yes.
Okay. They can go through my website. I have a contact form there.
We lost you, Richard. Can you hear us?
I can hear you. Yeah.
We
I
can't
can
hear
hear
you
him.
now.
Can you hear me now?
Oh, you lost him on the
Technology. Gotta love it.
Hang on. Let me see if I can get back on here.